Minecraft Snapshot 23w14a is here with updates to the new Calibrated Sculk sensors and heaps of bug fixes. My name is SliceSlime, let me show you all these changes, starting with a pretty obvious one. The Minecraft logo has been updated, and there's a new main menu background showing a Trails and Tales panorama of a cherry grove biome. In block and item news, the Calibrated Sculk sensor can now detect vibrations up to 16 blocks away and have an active cooldown of 1 second rather than 2. The input to a Calibrated Sculk sensor no longer needs to be hard power, but Sculk sensors and Calibrated Sculk sensors now strongly power the block they are placed on. Calibrated Sculk sensors now also glow just like regular Sculk sensors when they trigger. Sculk sensors' default redstone output has been modified to make them more reliable for determining distances. The distance calculation is now always based on the number of full blocks of distance. Where the source was within a block no longer matters. Sculk sensors are now triggered by sniffers digging, and only sneaking near one once again grants the Sneak 100 advancement. Players being hurt is now detected on the correct frequency by Calibrated Sculk sensors. Sculk shriekers have also been updated. Waterlogging a shrieker now silences its shriek, but keeps all other effects. And the Sculk shriekers and wardens now react to vibrations that have been forwarded using a resonating amethyst block. A change in this version to enchanting. You can now have replaceable blocks like grass or dead bushes between an enchanting table and the surrounding bookshelves and still get the level up on the enchanting table. You can now waterlog a decorated pot using a water bucket or a dispenser with a water bucket. And players can no longer edit signs in adventure mode. Suspicious sand and gravel are now most efficiently mined using a shovel, although you still don't get any drops that way. You can now plant cactus and sugarcane on suspicious sand and bamboo on suspicious gravel, and falling suspicious sand now breaks when landing even if the world was reloaded while it was falling. Suspicious sand can no longer be replaced by Sculk when a Sculk catalyst triggers. Some sniffer plant updates as well. Torch flowers and pitcher pods can now burn, and their hitboxes change with their size as they grow. Pitcher pod crops no longer consume bone meal if there's a block above them preventing them from growing, and they can now be destroyed by ravagers. Those flowers have also been adapted in the creative inventory where they are now placed next to the other flowers. Amethyst blocks have also been added to the redstone tab since they can now be used with Sculk sensors, and Sculk shriekers are now also available in the redstone tab. In crafting news, crafting a pitcher pod into cyan dye now gives 2 pieces of dye like all other tall flowers, and the 2 different ways of crafting cyan dye are now grouped in the recipe book. In mob news, plenty of changes and fixes for the sniffers. Sniffers can now be tempted using torchflower seeds. Sniffers in love mode now go to mate instead of heading off for other activities. They can no longer sniff while panicking, and will no longer sniff or dig into blocks outside of the world border. Sniffers can now also dig in mud. The name tags of sniffers are now raised above their bodies, and they no longer get positions mixed up if they switch dimensions. Mobs now understand how to avoid sniffer eggs when pathfinding, and will no longer get stuck spinning if they end up on top of sniffer eggs. Farmer villagers can now pick up torchflower seeds. In world generation news, the desert temple structures have been updated with the new room having more of its roof collapsed. 1 block of suspicious sand is now always visible in the top layer. In visual news, you can no longer see through the bottom of a filled cauldron if you end up inside of it. Buttons are no longer textured upside down, and hoppers no longer use their side texture on the bottom. Mangrove propagules in a flower pot no longer get mirrored, and the pitcher pods now have a bottom texture if they end up in the air from something like a command. When you use up a brush held in your offhand, the particles now have the correct type. There are also a huge amount of small fixes for individual pixels and similar problems in this version. Here's a quick rundown. Villagers now have all the pixels of their sandals. The pixels of desert zombie villager feet now match up. Some grey pixels have been fixed in the illusioner texture. The legs of black cats no longer have some white showing. Drowned no longer have a hole in their torso texture. And a single miscolored pixel on the slowness effect icon has been fixed. A round of sea fighting fixes have also been made. For levers on top of item frames, the bend in the tail of cats, the sides of squids and glow squids, the underside of a sniffer's head, and the reins of a horse with horse armor. In sound news, the brush and sniffer egg sounds are now controlled by the right volume sliders. There's now a subtitle for failing to edit a sign, and there's a sound for sniffers laying an egg. And baby sniffers now have a higher pitch to their sounds. In technical news, the resource pack version is now 14, which includes changes to the Minecraft logo texture. The Mince Raft Easter egg now has its own logo texture, and the format of the invite icon has also changed. The block state property names for the sniffer egg have been changed to be more consistent with the properties of turtle egg blocks. Signs that include text components can no longer be edited, even if they aren't waxed, and signs with click commands now work even if they aren't waxed. And a command parsing problem has been fixed that would cause invalid commands to not report any errors. There's a new loot table function, reference. It allows functions to call sub-functions, much like reference conditions already allowed referencing sub-conditions. Tag news in this version. There are 5 added block tags that you can see on screen now, and the replaceable plants tag has been removed. New functionality has been added to the command line arguments of the game to support quick play, that is, loading directly into a single-player world, server, or realm when starting the game. This takes the form of 3 new command line arguments: quick play single player, quick play multiplayer, and quick play realms. There's also a 4th new argument for a log file that the game will write recently played worlds into. This functionality is currently only available if you specifically add these command line arguments, which requires a custom launcher. And in stability news, a crash has been fixed and signs now properly save text even if the edit screen is closed by the player being moved far away. And that's it for 23w14a. My name is Slicelime, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.